Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. You are listening to Reading with Your Kids, podcasting and broadcasting from the vibrant and book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Our mission is to help families grow stronger, closer, and kinder through the magic of reading together. And we are absolutely thrilled to have you with us on that journey. Help us spread the word by sharing this podcast with the people you love. Tell your kids, teachers, school librarians, and neighbors that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, YouTube, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have an absolutely wonderful Easter Sunday morning show for you today. First up, Pastor Sheldon Lee Stovall. He's here to celebrate his middle grade series. It's Faith and Feelings, God's Way for Every Age. Later in the show, we take a listen back to a conversation we had with Korey Henkel celebrating Beloved. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the Fred the Snake series, written by Dr. Peter Cotton. I just got back from the COSPA National Education Conference. 1,500 school leaders from across the country. And I have to tell you, one of the biggest smiles at our booth came from a little snake named Fred. We were sharing the Fred the Snake book series, and again, superintendents and educators were drawn in by the bright, colorful illustration. They'd pick up a book, start flipping through it, and you could just see it. They got it. These are the kinds of stories kids want to read. But you know what really stopped them in their tracks? When I told them that the author, Dr. Peter Cotton, was a world-renowned gastroenterologist and teacher before he began writing children's books. And suddenly it clicked. Here's someone who spent a lifetime helping people, now using the same care, the same curiosity to create stories that help kids feel brave, welcome, and excited to learn. The Fred the Snake series now includes 10 wonderful adventures, from getting mended to going to school to exploring cities and beaches with friends, and every one of them is filled with heart, humor, and connection. We loved having Dr. Peter on Reading with Your Kids, and I can tell you, educators at the COSPA conference love Fred the Snake just as much as we do. So if you're looking for stories your kids will laugh with, learn from, and want to read again and again, meet Fred the Snake. Because with Fred the Snake, the real magic happens when we choose kindness and become a friend. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Connecticut. Our guest is here today to celebrate his new series of faith-based books, Sunday school lesson books. They're called Faith and Feelings, God's Ways for Every Age. Please welcome to the show, Pastor Sheldon Lee Stovall. Pastor Sheldon, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm really excited to be here today.
Happy to have you on. This is a series of lesson books for kids from kindergarten through high school?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
So one thing is I'm a licensed counselor, also a pastor. So many years I've worked with about 35 individual children every week. So coming right out the gate, they gave me all the young ones. So my job was to help them navigate their feelings and challenges. And over time, I noticed something that really struck me. So many of the children are struggling with feelings like fear, loneliness, sadness, and anger, but these emotions weren't being talked about at home or in school. So parents and caregivers didn't have the language or tools to help kids process what they were feeling. So with that observation, it inspired me to create Faith and Feelings, God's Way for Every Age. I wanted to develop a resource that connects emotional growth with faith, giving kids practical tools to understand their feelings and families ways to discuss them. So each book is designed to help children and teens recognize emotions, learn healthy coping strategies, and see how God's word can provide strength, peace, and guidance through every season of their life.
Pastor Sheldon, we've talked a lot on the show about social emotional learning.
Yes.
But this is the first time I think we've talked to an author who is sharing these ideas through a faith-based lens. And
Yes.
I just love it because, to be honest with you, I think having a faith is really important and really helpful in terms of great mental health.
Yes. And one of the things that when I got into this field, I learned that the suicide rate is the second leading cause of death for our young people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really concerned me because as a counselor, it's like my goal is how can I reach them? How can I get them to express what's going on, right? Even with so many parents, a lot of times parents do not have an understanding of even what trigger words are.
Uh-huh.
So which reminds me, I just happened to look at one of my Sunday school lesson books, the teacher's guide. So I have a parent teacher guide. So I have the same lessons for the children, but what I've added in are just key reminders, like trigger words. Like for example, if they're sad or lonely, nobody likes me. How many times you ever hear your kids say that? Or I don't have any friends, right? Or they don't play with me. And then when they're angry or frustrated, that's not fair, right? You're not my friend. I don't want to talk, right? And then some of the emotional red flags I put in here that I hope that would prompt a little bit more attention from parents and teachers, which teachers do have an understanding of it. But I wish I wasn't here, right? Words like that. Nobody would care if I was gone. I don't want to wake up. So these type of things are what God has given me to bring awareness to families. And the way this is all set up is that you can actually sit home with your children. Each lesson is dealing with emotions like fear. I have anger part 1 and 2 because I know how important that is. And I also teach ways to cope with anger. So there's also exercises in it. Like, for example, one of the famous ones I use is the God breath for anger. So it helps children recognize when they're feeling angry and gives them a simple way to cool down. So the exercise guides kids to pause, take a deep breath, and invite God in for the moment. So that's where creating a connection between emotional regulation and spiritual awareness comes in for our young people.
Tell me, you've written for a huge range of kids, kindergarten through grade 12. So you're talking about writing for kids ages 5 to 18. And while that might only be a 15-year age gap, developmentally, that's, like driving from here to LA. It's huge. How did you approach and solve that problem?
A lot of work and experience from over the years, right? So I kind of that's why each lesson, although they go from, K through 4, 5 through 8, and then 9 through 12, they actually have the same stories in them. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have anger, right? So the children, we teach them specific ways. So let me give you an example. For K through 4, I kind of have my books here. We talk about a scripture. It's a quick one. If you're angry, do not sin, right? Sometimes it's important just to know that someone in the Bible got angry, right? Mm-hmm. And that God gets angry, right? So then we have a short prayer, a memory verse, and then even for that, optional craft or game idea, stop, breathe, and stop and breathe game. So the child will stand up. When you say anger, they stomp their feet. When you say peace, they take a deep breath, folds their hand, and sit down quickly. So this is for the K through 4. And then I have for the 5th grade, which I've learned, 5th through 8th grade. It's a bit more complex, right? These are more intelligent beings. So with the same lessons, again, a little bit more depth, asking questions, like little exercises, right? We teach them how to do deep breathing God's way. So basically, you're going to be just doing the same deep breathing exercise, breathe in, but you're going to say a scripture of peace as you breathe out, right? So we're inviting God into our emotions and our feelings. And so with the older kids, the 9 through 12, same scriptures, same exercises, more independent working, of course, just a few questions, but we journal and we teach them talk about it. What made you angry? And then we have role playing exercises that the kids can play with together. Okay, what did you feel when you were angry just now? And then God did give it to me to put in testimonies. So each book, after each lesson, has a story, a testimony from another child who experienced this type of behavior, whether it's fear, anger, loneliness, happiness, joy. And what it does is when you can actually hear that someone else went through the same thing as you, right? It just kind of helps you. And that's what the Word of God says, we overcome by our testimony. And that might help you either open up and talk or just share your story. So we want to motivate the young people to talk. So that's what these Sunday school lessons books do, is they motivate them to talk.
I really like that. It's so very important. And the idea of reminding kids that they're not the only ones who felt these emotions before, that their peers fear them, and people that they've read about in the Bible have felt them over the centuries.
Yes. I put a few stories in about David. He dealt with a lot of fear, right? Running from Saul, King Saul. The king wanted his head, right? And so that man dealt with fear. I talked about Elijah. I put very small. You don't have to be a counselor, or you don't have to be fully educated as a preacher to understand stories. Very light stories, right? And I use actual scriptures from the Bible. Elijah, depressed. Jesus was anxious a few times, especially was in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was and they talked about how he was sweating beads of like blood, right? That is a physical reaction to such an anxiety. He got up, he kind of yelled at the disciples, you guys couldn't stay and, watch out me for a few minutes, right? He was anxious, right? So just when you see that other people that you read about and you hear about deal with these emotions, it just brings church alive, and it brings it home to you. So although these stories are ancient history, right? These stories have something else in them. They do have things in them. And what I have done, I started reading the Bible as a counselor. So now I look and see like where are these scriptures and passages that do talk about feelings? And you'd be surprised. It's 90% of the Bible.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all. At all. No, it's, I'm curious, when you're talking about older kids, who are bombarded by social media and the images that they're seeing online, I'm imagining that there's a good chance you may have had a kid turn to you at some point and say, don't give me this Bible thumping stuff. I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
How do you react to that?
So, how I look at this is that I use the Bible as a tool, right? So it's not really about you becoming religious. This is more about a tool that you can use to learn about emotions. And yes, these scriptures are always talked about. Everything is regular. Like I can give you some of the things we talk about, respecting parents, honoring God by honoring family, right? So a parent would want to sit down with their child, their teenager. Because I don't know how well you were as a teenager, but me, I couldn't be mouthy because my dad was 6'5" and and a big guy. And so I couldn't talk back to my dad, and we had to behave in school. I was a good kid because I was afraid. All right. He was also a bishop, so I was afraid, right? But some parents do not have that in their home where the child does fear or respect them. So you have to sit down. And one thing about teenagers, what I've learned is you're going to know what you're dealing with when you sit down with them. When you finally tell them something to do, like, okay, clean your room, and they decide not to do it, now they're being disobedient. They're not listening to you. So besides sending them to us, the counselors, because that's what we get, right? We have to explain it. But you as a parent, this gives you an opportunity to learn your child. And I would suggest any parent, start with the K-4 with your young people, your children. Start them early so they can start fearing and respecting God. Right? If you want to hand a teenager this Faith and Feelings book today, right, they might rebel, like you were saying, But the thing is, now you're going to know what you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And most counselors like myself, when you have a wayward adolescent, this is when you have to put your foot down and you have to let them learn. And this is how you can learn. So the Bible lessons are a tool just for conversation. It is not, you better learn this, but this is something to kind of put something in them to say, okay, hey, this is how we're going to run the house.
Yeah. Well, it makes total sense. I started the Reading with Your Kids podcast because I know the relationship, it was actually God inspired. I had these experts telling me I should do a podcast about these other topics. And that was all set up. And before I hit enter to start those podcasts, I said a prayer, and it was very clear that I should start this podcast because I know my relationship with my adult kids was built on a foundation of reading together and talking about the books together and going to church and hearing stories and the gospel and the readings and talking about them on the way home. That doesn't make sense. The church says this, but then they do this, and having those conversations. So this, I think, fits right into our Reading with Your Kids mission, especially for those with a faith tradition. We're recording this at the beginning of Holy Week. And so talk a little bit about how we can, in addition to using faith and feelings, talking to our kids about their emotions, how can those of us who have a faith tradition and want our kids to have a relationship that's more than just, I see God when I go to church on Sunday or when I go on Easter and Christmas, and really live a life where they have a relationship with God?
That's a great question. I love that you said that. What this is doing, what God has given me for this, is to start opening up conversations, right? The children of today, a quick anecdote. Right before I got into the counseling field, I wanted to be a producer. So I was going to, and then the classes, I didn't like how the classes were going. I felt like I was wasting my money in college. This was like undergrad. And so I changed it to sociology. And so one of my friends, I was in a small town. I was going to MCLA in North Adams, Mass, which is a very small town, one stoplight. And my friend said, I want to show you something. And he said, what? I said, what do you know? He took me to a graveyard. And I'm like, dude, I don't go to graveyard. He said, no, I want you to look at the ages. And so each age I saw got younger and younger. So we're talking 18 years old. And I was doing the math with a calculator, 19 years old. The enemy is taking our kids out young, right? The enemy, disallowing a relationship with God for yourself or rejecting God, you're opening up yourself to the worries of the world, right? The things of the world, like drugs, right? Fentanyl is taking these kids out. Overdoses. How many young people that now in school can tell you, I know at least 10 people that overdosed. When I was in school, I'm not telling my age, never heard about it, never knew what that was. Now it's a common thing, right? So as much as we want to act like we do not need a higher power or need God, our young people are leaving this earth, right? However, and that's because they do not have a spiritual connection. And so this is something that can open up the door for parents to start teaching their children about that there is a higher power. Now, I grew up Christian, so God is who I believe in, Jesus, the Son of God, right? I had no choice but to go to Sunday school every Sunday. My parents didn't give me an option. My children, I didn't do that to them. Both my children, my daughter's getting ready to be a psychologist. She's graduating actually in May, right? My son, he's trying to follow his father's footsteps, right? So I didn't force it on them, but I did live a life as an example. And I actually taught them about things like drugs, alcohol, things like that. So these Faith and Feeling Sunday School lesson books are just an opening to have conversations with your children. Our
Mhm.
parents, we get so busy with work and things like that, and you'd be surprised how many parents I have counseled who have had their 18-year-old overdose and
Mhm.
die and say, I wish I did this. I should have done that, right?
Mhm.
You do not want to put yourself in that situation. And just not preaching, but it says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. You have to start fearing something. And a lot of our young people are fearless today. Fearless. Taking a needle, I'm sorry for, and putting it in their arm. Are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Have you had hours of training with a needle? Why do you feel like you can do that? Right? These drugs that you're getting from the street, are they like made in some laboratory? Like, are you even thinking that this is safe for you? Right? So they're not thinking straight either.
Mhm.
And when you do not have when you have a lack of wisdom, when you're not wise in your decisions, and I'm not blaming the parents, but yes, you should send them to CCD. You should send them to Sunday school when they're younger so they can have some kind of understanding. Now, is this every child in the country? No. But with the suicide rate being the second largest killer, with drugs and alcohol taking our children out, what we have been doing is not working.
Amen. And again, I'm glad you repeated that really horrifying idea that suicide is taking out a huge number of
Yes,
kids.
it is.
Yes, I know. I remember doing a presentation in a school in Rhode Island many years ago, and I heard from a teacher as I'm setting up that a 10-year-old had committed suicide the week before. And when the principal came into the room to see if I was ready, I said, "Hey, I'm really sorry about hearing about the kid that committed suicide." And that principal jumped on me. That children cannot commit suicide. That he did not. That was an accident. And
Oh,
like, okay. And I'm really happy that we've grown from that point, which was probably about 30 years ago. We've
yeah.
grown. We realize that kids are choosing to end their life. And I think
Yes,
a lot of them, it's because they don't have any hope.
correct. Hopelessness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopelessness, which is one of the lessons. I hate to keep going back to this, but
Don't go back. That's why we're here.
God gave this to me. And as I said, you said something that that reminded me of what I said. The teacher's guide, the parent's guide is for the parents to be educated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Someone's going to tell you, as a counselor, they're going to tell you that they want to end your life. They're going to tell you this. There are assessments that we can take, but they're going to give you the words. They want you to know what they're getting ready to do. But if you don't recognize the words, if you haven't heard them before, and again, our parents are busy. That's what we have in here, is that it gives the parents an opportunity just to even read over the words, trigger warnings, emotional issues that might happen when they're lonely, right? A lot of people just commit suicide from loneliness, depression, undiagnosed, drugs, right? Substance use, right? Overusing their anxiety meds, their ADHD meds, right? Whatever's going on inside, it's not being addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so parents, I would urge you, slow down. These are your children.
Yeah.
I'm talking from both sides of this as a counselor and a pastor. It is time to sit down with your children, and the Faith and Feelings is just a tool. It's not the tool, but it is a tool that you can use to start learning more about your children and what they're going through.
Yeah.
Social media is dangerous
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you mentioned that you're coming at it as a counselor and as a pastor. You're also coming at the issue as a parent, as somebody
That's
who's
right.
raised a couple of kids who are now successful adults,
Yes.
happy
Right.
adults.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And I'm really happy that you're here sharing about Faith and Feelings, God's way for every age. If there's one last thing you want to remind parents, share it with us, please.
All right. So parents, and again, I'm coming to you as a counselor and a pastor. right? This is faith-driven emotional learning. It connects real-life feelings like fear, anger, loneliness to God's word. So it helps children and teens manage emotions with a spiritual foundation. One of the biggest issues is that children emotional regulation, they do not know how to deal with their emotions. And if you, as a parent, do not know how to deal with your emotions, you're arguing in front of your children, you guys can't seem to calm it down in the home, what hope do they have? Right? So what we want to do is bring structure back in the home from the head of the house, whether it's the father and mother, or father or just mother. But we want, or even caregiver, we want to bring this structure back from the head. Take the reins back, right? Your children do not know everything. And as much as intelligent they are, they don't know everything. They need to be taught important things like dealing with their emotions, because that is what leads them astray. It leads them to the other side. So I'm going to encourage the parents, pray about this, but go to Amazon.com, type in my name, Sheldon Stovall, or Sheldon Lee Stovall, and the Faith and Feelings series will come up. Make a purchase. Try this out. I do have 52 weeks of these lessons, but I only put out the first 13 weeks because a lot of churches are trying it out. Like some of the churches, the homeschooling parents, they have been working with their children. So I've been kind of getting feedback. I know it's going to be good feedback because I've been using these things even with my own children for years, right? My wife and I also, I don't know how much moments I have, but we also take in foster children. So we don't bombard them with the word of God, but we teach them how to behave, how to do things. And it works out. It works out. And it's age appropriate for each age. You do not have to be a clinician. You do not have to be a professional teacher. Everything is spelled out and it's very easy. This is to bring, designed to spark meaningful conversation between kids and adults, whether reading together or discussing lessons later, reinforcing strong family relationships. And if your church decides to buy them, which we do have churches buying them now, parents, get yourself a guide. That way you can keep up with what's going on in Sunday school. And if your child is having an issue with anger, you have the word of God to stand on and say, God said, be angry, but sin not.
All right. All right. I love it. I love it. And one of the things I love is now science is proving a lot of the lessons that we hear in the Bible are right. The whole idea of gratitude, living gratefully.
Yes.
And we have scientific evidence that that's the way you should do it. And so, great. I encourage everybody to check out Faith and Feelings, God's Way for Every Age. And we want to thank our guest for being here, Pastor Sheldon Lee Stovall. Hey, Pastor Sheldon, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we're going to get them to go out and get these right away.
This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Follow the River by Ellen Cochran. What would you do if you fell from the sky into the Amazon rainforest? That's not fiction. That's the incredible story behind the book Follow the River by Ellen Cochran. On Christmas Eve 1971, 17-year-old Julianne boarded a plane with her mom in Lima, Peru. The destination was home, a research station deep in the Amazon jungle. But just 20 minutes after landing, disaster struck. Lightning hit the plane, and Julianne was thrown 2 miles through the sky into the rainforest below. When she woke up the next day, she was alone. Her collarbone was broken. Her glasses were gone. She only had one shoe, and she was surrounded by one of the most dangerous jungles on Earth. But Julianne remembered the lessons her scientist parents had taught her and began an unbelievable journey through the Amazon. For 11 days, she walked, survived, and followed the water until she found help. Follow the River is a breathtaking story of courage, resilience, and the incredible strength of the human spirit. If your family loves stories like Hatchet or I Survived, this is one adventure you won't want to miss. Discover Follow the River today, a true story that proves that sometimes the greatest survival tool is hope. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Nashville in Tennessee. I am so excited. Our guest today is the editor. I think this is the first time we've had an editor on the podcast, but there's a good reason for it. He's the editor of Beloved. Please welcome to the show, Korey Henkel. Hey, Korey, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you? I'm so glad to be here.
I'm delighted to be here. I should let people know, Korey and I, Korey has a special place in my heart. We met one evening. My daughter in high school, in elementary school, high school, had a dream about getting into the music business, in particular the Christian music business. And to kind of make that happen, start to make contacts, she started volunteering to work with recording artists. When the recording artists who play huge stadiums down the South, when they go to New England, they play teeny-weeny churches, and they depend on volunteer help. And so we were part of that volunteer help one night, and we had this evening where we had a chance to sit down and have dinner with Jason Gray and Lauren Daigle. And Jason was talking to my daughter and found out that she was aspiring to get into the business, and he made a phone call to somebody. I didn't know who it was. It was Korey, and Korey was sick as a dog on the tour bus. And Jason asked him to come in, and Korey did, got out of his sick bed, came in, met with my daughter. They connected, and Korey became a mentor to my daughter. And so I'm so appreciative of what you gave to my daughter, this little high school kid.
Man, I'm so glad. Yeah, I had pneumonia. I was in the hospital the day before, and they said, hey, you need to stay a couple of days. I was like, no, the bus leaves at 11. I got to go. And they're like, okay. So it was my first ever tour. I had just moved to Nashville to be in the music industry myself. I think that's why Jason was like, oh, you got to connect, because I literally just moved from Minnesota, sold all my stuff, and wanted to be in the industry. And my first ever tour, like 4 days in, I get pneumonia. And it was pretty miserable. But yeah, it was so great meeting you guys. And then, but to your credit, I mean, every time you're in town, you and your daughter will hit me up, and we've gotten coffee multiple times, and every time I've been up in Boston, I've been able to connect. So like it's really been it's been awesome. It's really kind of one of those God things to kind of put each other in each other's lives. So I'm really grateful.
I agree, and I do think it was one of those God things. And I think that this interview was somehow divinely inspired, because I get dozens and dozens of pitches and proposals every day. I'm not able to open up all of them. I opened, and typically if I open up one, if that first, and I don't mean to sound like a diva, I apologize, but, if that first paragraph doesn't catch my eye, I kind of move on. And the first paragraph of this pitch caught my eye because it told me that Beloved was based on the music of Jordan Feliz, a fantastic recording artist. And I said, oh, I'd love to have Jordan on my show. And I read a little bit further, and it's like, he didn't write the book. It was written by Jess Waller and illustrated by Hillary Griffith. And by the way, Jordan's not available. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just read some more. And I did. And I actually read down to the fourth paragraph, which I never do. And I see, and the book was edited by, and I'm like, why are they telling me who edited? And I read further, and it said by Korey Henkel, and I go, dude, I got to have my buddy Korey on the show. So
I'm so glad.
Thank you to the heavens for bringing us together for this.
Indeed. Yeah. That's so fun.
So tell me about Beloved.
Yeah. So there's a song that Jordan has been singing for 7 or 8 years in his set that he wrote for his daughter, Jolie. And it's called Beloved. And we were like, if you've ever seen Jordan Feliz in concert, which I suggest everybody do it, it is like the most up-tempo, high-energy thing you can imagine. But then there's a ballad that comes in, and it just kind of, at first it was fine because it's part of the record. It was #1 at radio. And so people were expecting it and hoping for it. But as anything goes, 7 or 8 years later, people have moved on from the song or whatever it is. But Jordan really wanted to keep it in his set. Like normally as you're an artist, you kind of cycle out the old stuff. You just want to play the new stuff. But he always wants to play Beloved because it's about his daughter. And so we were just in a marketing meeting in late 2019. We were all sitting together, and we're like, well, how can we keep this incredible song. How can we kind of give it a new life? And we kind of threw it out. I forget who it was in the room, but somebody said, "Hey, we should make a children's book about it." And then it's just kind of gives new life to the song, especially since it's about his daughter, and his daughter is just the cutest kid. And even as you look at the illustrations of the book, like it really kind of fully illustrates who she is, with big frizzy hair and just really emotive. So like she's tailor made for a children's book. And so we're like, yeah, that could be a good idea. And like, who's going to do it? And we kind of looked around, and I guess I'm like, well, I could try. And next thing I know, I was going down the road of trying to figure out how to make a children's book. And then, of course, COVID kind of made everything exponentially more difficult, but we did it. 2 years later, we got ourselves a beautiful, beautiful children's book that we're super proud of.
Well, 2 years seems to be the standard time it takes from idea or purchase of a manuscript to the book hitting the shelves. So first time out, you guys did a good job.
All right. Yeah, great. All right.
So tell us.
It was a long time. That's good.
Tell us what the book's about.
Well, it's about Jolie. It's about Jordan's daughter, and she, Jordan and his family are at the beach. Jordan is from California, and the beach is a major part of his life. So as we were talking to Jordan, it was like, well, let's try a beach themed book. And so it's about his daughter trying really hard to figure out why her daddy loves her. And she's like, well, is it because I can run fast? Is it because I can build sandcastles? Is it because of all the things that I do? And Jordan, and his family says, no, that's not why I love you. And then it's finally Jolie thinks about it and wonder. I hate to give away the climax, but she thinks about it and she finally asks, and she's like, well, why do you love me? And Jordan says, well, I love you because you're my daughter. And more than that, we are loved by God. We are loved by Jesus, and He shows that through dying on the cross. And because of that, we are all beloved. And so we can all love each other because we know that we are loved by God. And it's just a beautiful little story that really drives home the point that we are God's children, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to be.
I really like that. I like that the book is telling the story. It sounds like it's telling the story from Jolie's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She, is it because I can do this? Is it because I can, trying to figure out all the tangible things that, I think she's probably 4 or 5 years old in this setting. All the tangible things that a 4 or 5 year old could do. Like look, I can run. I can build a sandcastle. I can do these things. I can throw the fish that have been washed up, throw them back to the ocean. Is it because I'm so nice? And like, nope, it's none of those things. It still lands with Jesus, and it lands with, well, one, because you're my daughter. I love you because my daughter. But then we're loved because He first loved us. Is really the point that we wanted to drive home.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm imagining how much I would have loved to have read this book to my daughter Alejandra, and I can see her hearing this and talking to me about it and actually picking up the conversation. I'm imagining halfway through, she would have turned to me at some point and said, why do you love me? Because I can dance, because I can sing, because I help you and Mom around the house. And no, it's because you're my daughter, because God gave you to me. God entrusted me to raise you. And that's a beautiful thing.
Truly, and that's why Jordan. Jordan, it was his first daughter, or his first kid, and he's looking at her, and as she's as an infant, these are the things that he would speak over her, because he realized, and we all realized, how crazy of a world it is for kids, girls in particular, of just trying to find their worth and value. And so he really wanted, in fact, from the record "The River," which was a massive record for him, it was really the record that made him into the the kind of the staple of Christian music that he is right now. And that is the kind of the crescendo of the record, like, all points up to this. Mm-hmm. And he's just so proud of it. And it really is just a beautiful song. and a lasting song. So I'm really, really glad that we could give it kind of a new life so that it can continue to be in all of his shows, and hopefully it will be for for the next 7 years.
Yeah, and good for him to really push, like, and music, even Christian music, is a business, and there's a science behind it and strategy, and you got to put butts in the seats in order to make the machine run, and good for him to kind of push back and say, yeah, I know I got to get the new stuff in there, but this song is special to me, and I want to keep it in there.
Yeah, truly. And we were just glad to be able to be a part of it. Like, hey, well, let's help you do that. That's kind of a fun thing for us.
Yeah.
We don't often, on the label side, once the music's out, or once the music's made, we don't really, the creative thing has kind of been done. The artist has already decided that. So for us to have the opportunity to be a part of something like this it's really unique and pretty special that we were able to even do it. So we're glad.
The thing that I didn't mention in introducing Korey is that he is the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for Centricity Records, a label that brings us some amazing artists, and we can talk about that a little bit later. I'm curious, sitting in a room with marketing people who are just like, all right, so how are we going to get some new life into this? How are we going to pump some new life into this? I'm thinking an initial instinct would be kids book. Okay, kids book. Well, let's just take the lyrics and turn them into a book. Put some illustrations. You didn't go that route. You went out and you found an author. Why did you decide to do this the hard way?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I guess when we looked at the lyric, it felt like, well, really the reason why the song stands out in the set is because of Jordan sharing his heart behind it, and really kind of telling about his daughter. And so the song itself is beautiful, but but just the lyrics kind of on their own, the story needed to be told, and specifically featuring Jolie, and so it was a quick conversation of like, man, I think there's something more there. And so I it's funny. I went to college with Jess. She's part of a women's group called the Holy Hen House, which I think is a wonderful mommy blogger. Yeah, the Holy Hen House. And I just kind of sent them a direct. There's a couple of girls that I went to college with that are part of it, and I was like, hey, if you guys, can I put this out to your network and see if any of you would want to, kind of, take a stab at writing a manuscript? And here's kind of the background. And Jordan did like a primer of what, the story behind the song and all that. And 9 or 10 of them submitted, and then they kind of reached out to other sort of mommy bloggers and that sort of world that I had no expertise in by any means, but they kind of spread the word. I got 8 or 9 submissions, but Jess's was like, oh, this really nails, hits the nail on the head. And Jordan read through all of them. He's like, nope, this is it. Jess's is the one. So we move forward with her, and she has written a couple other children's books previously. So it kind of it's kind of great for her that it's just another step for her as she continues to write wonderful books. So it worked out really well.
The process for you editing this book, as you said, this is something you had never done before, and it was kind of thrown into your lap. Did you have an instinct of maybe catching pneumonia again and say, I can't do this?
Yeah, oh man, yes, it literally over and over and over again. Like, I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, yes, we went through a couple of illustrators. Hillary was a godsend. Like, she was so wonderful, and really, again, caught the vision. It's one of those things that when you're trying to find something that is just sort of this ethereal idea, to find people that really catch your vision of like, oh yeah, this is it. Once that falls in place, it's like, oh, here we go. And so there's a lot of struggle and sort of like trying to figure it out in the beginning. But once it kind of got locked into the people who fully understood and kind of got it, it was kind of easy sailing. And by the time Hillary was on board, she knocked it out. And really, there was so few revisions. I mean, like it was a beautiful thing. And she wanted more. She's like, well, tell me what we need to change. We're like, no, nothing. This is exactly it. This is a beautiful. This is all of it is exactly what we were thinking, and it really is just beautiful. So that's the thing. I've never been able to draw. I've always, if I could have any superpower, it would be to be able to draw, because I have things in my head that can never get out, because I just can't draw it. And so when you describe something and then have somebody actually draw it, it's there, in 2D in front of you. It's like, it's so cathartic. You're like, that's it. That was in my brain, and now it's there on a page. It's really wonderful. So it was a lot of fun on the creative side of things to get something together.
Yeah. Were there any kind of similarities between helping artists get their ideas out in song and in music my goodness, my brain just stopped working. Any similarities to helping artists make music and helping this author and illustrator create this book, tell the story?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's the thing, is that truly, I don't know how other labels work, but Centricity truly has been, if an artist, and really all of our artists come in with a pretty secure sense of who they are and what they want to put out. And which is really great, because then we can just lock arms and make it happen. Like we meet with really all of our artists on a regular basis and kind of figure out what they're trying to say and how they're trying to say it, and we just walk alongside them and make that happen. And so, that's kind of that's how this even came about. It's like, this is something that Jordan, and I don't know what other places would do. Maybe just kind of sub it out and be like, okay, well, there's someone that can go and do this and have fun. But I think that just kind of is the DNA of Centricity, that we are the small little indie label that could. And so just to be able to do it alongside Jordan and kind of let us all work on it together is really kind of what we're about at Centricity, which I love. So yeah, it's very much like the music, and that's the same thing. I'm on an A&R side of things, and that's who kind of develops the actual sound and music. So I'm sure they get to do it a lot more often than we do. But I think it's that same sort of energy of a vision from an artist, and it's our privilege to be able to help them get that out to the world so that it can impact as many people as possible.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a minute just to talk to folks about your industry, about this Christian music industry. I have to be honest with you, when, my daughter was in high school, elementary school, actually middle school, and it's this idea of Christian music. My thing, growing up here in Boston Catholic, when I heard Christian music, it's a guy and a guitar singing Kumbaya, and that's it. Maybe we sing the Our Father together, and but I had no idea what the Christian music industry was all about. I had no idea that it was so incredibly diverse and really good. I mean, we're not talking, just somebody who happens to love God a lot and likes to sing. I mean, the artists, the music are incredible. The production, go to a concert, it's like amazing.
Yeah. And it continues to grow too. Like I think the national radio networks, like the emergence of like a K-Love, that really is a national network, and also just the leveling field that Spotify and Apple Music and those sort of digital service providers provide. I mean, it's the same. You can go to the same place to hear all genres of music. It's not like it's a separate thing. You used to have to go to the Christian bookstore to find the Christian music, and so the fact that we're on the same airwaves and the same apps means that we have to, like, the industry, the music, the artistry has to be at the same level. I think to a little extent you can still. It used to be worse, though, that you could go down the radio dial and you could immediately find out the Christian song, like the Christian station, without hearing any words. Just something about the production, something about it, be like, oh, this is the Christian station. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think everything has really gotten to the same level, because honestly, it's a lot of the same people making, producing on the back end a lot of the same songs. That there really isn't genres. That the same country writers, country producers here in town are writing and producing a lot of our music, and vice versa, and even pop producers. And I mean, like, there's really the genre lines have been really blurred in a lot of ways, which is really great, because it makes us, kind of levels us up, but it also makes us competitive, and it also it's just more ears to hear the message, because we do have something that a lot of other songs don't, and that's that message of hope that I think at least we try, that every song would give, just point to something bigger than ourselves in a way that no other genre does. So it really is a special thing.
Well, I have to tell you, as a dad of, then a girl in the 7th and 8th grade who suddenly was turned onto this music, it was a real gift to me. And initially it was just a gift. Oh, my daughter wants to listen to this really positive message about her, about others, about God, and she's choosing to listen to that instead of music talking about hoes and all this other kind of stuff. And if she wants to listen to rap, she can listen to rap. She can listen to Toby Mac or Lecrae, and it's got the same beat, the same feeling, but the message is pretty positive. And it's all it's not like the commercials our kids are exposed to where your life isn't going to be complete until you own this thing or that thing, or you're not good enough. Everything that I heard coming out of artists like Jordan Feliz and Toby Mac and Lecrae and For King Country, it's all, and I'm sorry, I know I probably didn't mention any of your artists, but it's all, you're good enough just the way you are.
Yep.
And God loves you, and that's all you need to have in your life.
Yep, it really is. It's a beautiful thing, and it's safe for the listeners, safe for all listeners in the car is always the Christian radio question, and it really, there is something special to that, to be able to know that it is not only safe, that it won't kind of offend anyone, but it also it's building you up, it's encouraging. And you don't even know it. All of a sudden, you're in a rough time, and you're kind of repeating a chorus, and you're like, "Where did I hear that?" Like, "Oh, I heard that on the radio." Like this Chris Tomlin song has helped me through a tough time, and I don't even remember, sitting down to listen to it, but it's just kind of it's on the radio. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Around that time, I remember being in the car, and my wife came in the car and goes, "Oh, we're gonna listen to this Jesus music again," and she turns the radio to the pop station, and the song that came on was it was just disgusting. Yeah. And she said, all right. But she still wasn't buying into the whole idea. But then eventually she just started listening more and more. And now that's all she listens to.
Oh, that's great.
Is the message on Sirius. And it really is wonderful. Hey, I mentioned a few artists, and I know I didn't mention any. I don't know if I mentioned any Centricity artists. Tell us some of the artists that we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Feliz. We love Jordan Feliz. We also are the label home of Lauren Daigle, which is a wonderful blessing for us. A guy named, when it comes to an established artist like Jordan, like Lauren, Jason Gray, a beautiful singer-songwriter that's how we met. Unspoken, a band that's been around, and it's from the Northeast as well.
Name,
so that's kind of the established side of things. But then kind of new folks to look out for. A guy named Patrick Mayberry is a worship leader from Chicago, and just writes really, it's really fun, upbeat, just awesome worship music that's just completely real. And he too, father of 4, just in a really unique position of life, and just writes music about it, and is worshiping God through it. It's wonderful. Of course, Katie Nicole is someone who has really exploded this last year. It's been an incredible year for her. She just a year ago was working at a donut bakery, and now she's had 2 number 1s, and has been on the hot Christian Billboard chart for 25 weeks, and is touring the country. So talk about life changing on a dime. And over 80 million people have interacted with her song on TikTok. It's just absolutely exploded from 0 to 30, or more than that, 0 to 100 in a matter of a year. And then a guy named Chris Renzema too, who is really just connecting on the college level. He's only playing clubs and bars and selling them out across the country, and just having a really incredible success connecting with college kids today, and in a really unique voice. It's beautiful to see, and it is not interested in radio. But it doesn't have any radio behind it or anything. It's just this almost like underground fan base that's built in colleges across the country, and it continues to grow in really remarkable ways. So that's definitely something to check out.
That's wonderful. And I have to tell Lauren Daigle has just exploded And the night I had a chance to sit down and have dinner with her and Jason, she was 18 maybe.
Yeah, it was her first tour. I mean, literally her first, maybe the third show she's ever played live. Yeah.
And she was so sweet. And Centricity's done such a great job helping her grow and putting her out there. And I can tell you, the person I met at dinner was so sweet, and it was genuinely her, because I met her a couple of years later at the end of a long Christian music festival night, and we just kind of bumped into each other at the venue, and she goes, "You and I met before." And I said, "Oh, yeah, we did," and we had a nice little reunion. And so that's the person you see up on stage is the person that I met in person. Very true, very true. Yeah, it's wonderful. So, Korey, where can we go to find out more about Beloved? You go to jordanfeliz.com/beloved book, and you can get him there. And he's got him on the road with him, so if he's touring constantly. So check out his tour schedule. Check him out. It's a great show, and you can get him on his merchandise table as well. But we're actually printing our second printing now. We're about to run out of our first run, so we'll have plenty to sell throughout the entirety of 2023. But jordanfeliz.com/beloved book. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show so you never miss a moment of Reading with Your Kids. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Pastor Sheldon Lee Stovall. Please be sure to check out Faith and Feelings, God's Way for Every Age. I also want to thank Korey Henkel. Please be sure to check out Beloved. And we also want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Saltalera. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better, stronger, kinder, more empathetic place. And you do that every time you read with that beautiful kid of yours. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.